This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Gamers! With the world once again falling to shit, it's nice to be among people who hear the word Omicron and think not of a deadly virus, but of that weird David Cage game starring David Bowie, partly written by David Bowie and scored by David Bowie. Here's a clip for the youngins out there.
You're not the first video game player to get your soul trapped in this dimension, but you're certainly the first to stay alive so long.
Still creepy as fuck nearly 2 decades later. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This Week in Video Games. I hope you're doing well out there. I've had a great week. Did a video on Psychonauts 2 over the weekend, which I loved. Thank you to everyone who tuned into that video. I really enjoyed making that one. I'm working on some other reviews at the moment. Some of the games I'm reviewing are kind of a big deal, so let me just say this is going to be a huge week of content that you are not going to want to miss. Might want to hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, just a thought. By the way, I haven't mentioned this in a long ass time, but did you know this show is also available as a podcast? So if you don't want to have to watch Austin's subpar, low effort, low quality editing, you can just listen to me serenade you over Spotify or Apple Podcasts or dozens of other platforms. Link to all that in the description below. By the way, I was joking. Austin, please don't quit. I'd be totally screwed without you. Let's do the news. Halo Infinite has had one hell of a news cycle. 2 weeks ago was a torrent of gushing praise, tears of joy flowing, tantric moaning. Fast forward 2 weeks and now everyone realizes they are in fact getting fucked, just not in a good way. Halo Infinite's battle pass and progression were heavily criticized in week 1 when it became clear just how frustrating its challenge-based progression is, since those challenges ask you to do annoying bullshit like kill 15 people with a sidearm, rather than just, play the game, play the objective, have fun. Worse, even if you do these challenges, the progression rates were so hilariously slow, it would take you hundreds of hours to grind out the complete battle pass. Finally, the rewards themselves are really frustrating in their composition. Specific armor pieces that can only be used with specific armor cores, or color palettes that are specific to one set of armor, so you can unlock blue for one set of armor, but if you want to put blue on a different set of armor, then you have to buy that blue from the shop. I'm hesitant to describe it in any more detail right now because I worry that Bungie are watching this video taking notes like, very interesting. Halo's woes intensified this week with the release of its first seasonal event, Fractured Tenray. This is basically a game mode with randomized weapons at spawn and another really stingy battle pass full of annoying challenges, and you're capped so that you can only complete 7 levels of the battle pass per week, meaning that you have to complete the pass over roughly 5 separate weeks spread out over the next 6 months. Nobody likes this. Nobody. To their credit, 343 have been upfront about how shitty all of this is, with 343's lead designer even tweeting that he too was feeling the progression pain and that it was top of his list of priorities. That's good and all, but you kind of wish this stuff was identified and fixed in the 6 years this game was in development, rather than in the 2 weeks since its launch. It's not like this stuff was sneaky, hidden, buggy code. This is one of the most front-facing parts of the game, so it kind of feels like 343 thought they could get away with this because Halo is now free to play, but this version of free to play is significantly worse than what we used to get when we paid $60 for a complete release. That's not where things should have landed. To make matters worse, cheating has begun. On PC, we're beginning to see aimbots and wall hacks kick in, and it's becoming common enough that at least some console players are asking for a way to disable crossplay so they can be separate from PC players. That makes sense, and I see no reason why 343 shouldn't accommodate that. Lastly, I'd point you to this video from The Act Man titled Halo Infinite is underwhelming and disappointing, 1 of 2. Now, I don't like the title of this video. Given how good Halo's core gameplay, map design, and balance is, I think it's unfair to say that Halo Infinite is underwhelming and disappointing. However, I do think the Act Man provides an excellent breakdown of many of the missing features and game modes that Halo fans should have rightly expected, given the fact that a lot of this stuff existed earlier in Reach and in the Master Chief Collection. Halo Infinite's current challenges are not just progression-based, they're also content and feature-based, and I think this is the best video that showcases that fact. I'll leave a link to it below. It wasn't all bad news for Microsoft this week though. Turns out the best-selling console during this Black Friday season wasn't the PS5, it wasn't the Xbox Series X, and it wasn't the Nintendo Switch, either of them. It was, in fact, the Xbox Series S. Quote, among the over 1 trillion visits to US retail sites measured by Adobe, the Xbox Series S was among the top-selling items thus far for Black Friday 2021, end quote. That is according to the Adobe Digital Economy Index. This is unsurprising from one angle, and that is, you can't buy the other consoles. Other consoles are still suffering from massive shortages and an overactive scalpers market, while the Xbox Series S is generally in stock at most retailers, so yeah, it makes sense that it sells because people don't have any other choice. But I think it's important to remember that people aren't going to buy a console they don't want just because it's on shelves. Xbox Series S is a fantastic console that plays next-gen games at up to 1440p, 60 FPS, it can play every game in the next-gen library, and it is the cheapest path into Game Pass, which is by far and away the best deal in all of gaming right now. Series S selling well isn't only because people can't get a PS5 or a Series X right now, it's selling well because it deserves to sell. Okay, we've done a good news story now. Let's dunk on Battlefield 2042 for a bit. Battlefield is still in very rough shape. Though it has clawed its way out of the 10 worst games on Steam, it currently sits at number 18, things are still pretty dire for EA DICE's latest shooter as it struggles under the weight of its unfinished technical state and its poorly thought out design decisions. This week, DICE released a massive update that makes clear just how profoundly unready this game was for launch. It talks about PC performance issues, broken hit registration, the fact that the game would sometimes turn off your Xbox while you were playing it. It talks about game-breaking bugs like flying hovercrafts and all the issues people were having with bullet spread and bloom. So much, all of it making clear what everyone told DICE earlier. This game should have been delayed. One line was really funny though, quote, we also want to give you the assurance that we're carefully evaluating your desire to see legacy features return. End of match scoreboard, server browser, and features like voice chat are big topics for us to cover all at once, and we have plenty we want to say around them, end quote. Imagine calling a scoreboard a legacy feature. How far we done fall. One story doing the rounds this week was that Battlefield 2042's lead designer Forzi Mesmer is leaving DICE. This sounds juicier than it probably is. It's very common for game developers, particularly designers, to move on to other projects or to go to other companies after a game has launched. Mesmer says that he got an offer from somewhere else that he couldn't refuse, so he's taken it. Fair enough. Like I said, I don't think this was as salacious as many have implied. That might not be the case for this next story though, involving BioWare, who this week lost the creative director for the next Dragon Age game. Matt Goldman is a BioWare veteran who's been in the creative director position since 2017. The news came as an email to staff which said, quote, I'm writing to inform you all that Matt Goldman is leaving BioWare. We have mutually agreed to part ways and his last day is today, end quote. That's the sort of exit that raises eyebrows. The wording, the suddenness, the fact that no replacement has been appointed yet, it doesn't imply smooth sailing. We can't jump to conclusions, obviously, but generally speaking, when a creative director leaves a project before it ships, that's not a good sign. We haven't heard much about Dragon Age for a while now, so hopefully things are going okay. BioWare certainly needs this one to be a big win after that disappointing Mass Effect Andromeda and that other game they put out. What was it called? Oh yeah, Anthem. Here's something cool. We're probably going to get a Marvel MMORPG. The game is currently in development at Dimensional Ink Studio, the team behind DC Universe Online, and the project will be led by one Jack Emmerich, who was lead designer for the much-loved City of Heroes. The project was revealed during an investor call from the company that owns Dimensional Ink, and they just kind of blurted it out, calling it a, quote, Marvel IP-based massively multiplayer online game, end quote. I would like to play something like this, and apparently DC Universe Online is pretty okay, so yeah, good luck to them, I say. While we're on the topic of Marvel, The Avengers is a video game that still exists. For now. And today, PlayStation fans are going to get their hands on Dollar Store Spider-Man. The gameplay footage here is not Spidey at his best. This is like they went to Times Square and roped in one of those dudes that dresses like Spider-Man so people can take photos with him. But when you ask him to like strike a pose or something, he's like, kid, I got a bad back. Worse, this Spider-Man DLC will not come with a campaign to properly intro the web slinger, as was the case with both Black Panther and Hawkeye. Instead, Spider will be introed through audio logs scattered throughout existing missions and challenges. Crystal Dynamics said they're doing this because, quote, we want to spend our efforts on content that everyone can enjoy, so we chose to spend a lot of our energy on the Claw raid that's coming up at the same time, end quote. Interesting perspective to adopt. Would have been nice to have that viewpoint with regards to Spider-Man himself being playable on other platforms. But to be fair, that's not on Crystal Dynamics, that's really on the suits and money men who handed them this poison chalice. With Spider-Man now shipped, the question becomes, what's gonna happen with this game? With an absolutely non-existent player count, no goodwill in the market, and no real fan base rooting for it, I can't see it getting new major updates after this. I guess we'll find out over the coming weeks and months. One game that isn't going anywhere anytime soon is Cyberpunk 2077. With the Steam Black Friday sale currently running, Cyberpunk 2077 is discounted 50%, and as a result, it has been pretty much the highest selling game of the entire sale. Along with new players comes new Steam reviews, and guess what? For the first time ever, Cyberpunk 2077 has hit very positive on Steam, with 84% of reviews being positive. It comes at the same time as CD Projekt Red president Adam Kaczynski declared that, quote, "We believe that in the long run, Cyberpunk 2077 will be perceived as a very good game, and like our other titles, it will sell for years, especially as the hardware gets more powerful over time and we improve the game," end quote. This redemption arc might be helped along by the arrival of the promised DLC and expansion, at least some of which are scheduled to arrive sometime in 2022. A statement from CD Projekt Red to investors reads, quote, "We are hard at work on the next-gen version of Cyberpunk, scheduled to release in the first quarter of 2022, alongside another major update for all platforms. There is also ongoing work on the next-gen version of The Witcher 3 and the Cyberpunk expansion," end quote. I think the arrival of the next-gen version of Cyberpunk, with thousands of bug fixes that have already gone into it and next-gen performance, is certainly going to be a moment for Cyberpunk, since console owners will get to experience the game the way the PC players did. Yes, there are a lot of missing features and gameplay issues, sure, but free from all the performance woes that console players suffered, I suspect more than a few people will come to some different conclusions about how worthwhile Cyberpunk is as a video game. And yes, I know it's still very unpopular to like Cyberpunk or to say it is a good game, but that is what I think. Hey, remember that Bobby Kotick guy? The guy that used to be CEO of Activision Blizzard until a Wall Street Journal article exposed his complicity and contribution to a culture of sexual harassment and cover-up at the company? Oh wait, he's still CEO. How about that? It's been over 2 weeks since the Wall Street Journal article dropped, and Bobby is still in the top spot, despite both Sony and Microsoft calling him out on the matter. Well, this week, Nintendo joined the chorus. In a leaked internal email, Nintendo of America CEO Doug Bowser, yes, that is his real name, I feel like I need to confirm that every time, otherwise you'll think I'm joking. Anyway, he told staff, quote, "Along with all of you, I've been following the latest developments with Activision Blizzard and the ongoing reports of sexual harassment and toxicity at the company. I find these accounts distressing and disturbing. They run counter to my values as well as Nintendo's beliefs, values, and policies," end quote. It's great that these companies are taking a stand in their own way, but it hasn't been enough to dislodge Bobby, who seems dug in and encircled by his boardroom buddies, all of whom are in lockstep behind him since they all make a lot of money together. I look forward to the day when I can report on Bobby Kotick's resignation, but sadly it is not this day. A few quick things to finish up. The Star Wars game that Quantic Dream are working on, apparently it's set in the High Republic era, which should be interesting since we don't get too many games in that era, or really none except SWTOR. RGG have confirmed that they are working on a new franchise separate from both Yakuza and Judgment. We already know that they have a new Yakuza game in the works, so that's at least 2 on their plate. The fate of Judgment remains in limbo. And finally, remember how I said that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl would be the best-selling games of November, even though they absolutely should not be? Well, your boy don't miss. Even though sometimes I really wish I did. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, first up was the announcement of Men of War 2. It's the latest installment in a long-running RTS series that I guess has flown under the radar because I hadn't heard of it, but they've been putting out a steady string of releases since way back in 2004. Anyway, fans were excited to know this one exists and it'll be arriving sometime in 2022. Achilles Legends Untold was revealed this week and it looks pretty good. It's an isometric ARPG starring Achilles as the leading man, and the developers are promising deep Souls-like combat. The visuals look simple but nice, and I like the setting, and it looks like you'll be able to play co-op as well. So yeah, not bad. It's out sometime next year. Here's some great news. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is coming to Nintendo Switch on April 12th. This is a game I started, but then I stopped, just as it was getting good. I just got busy with other stuff. But everyone who's played this says it has one of the best stories of any game in recent memory, so I'm bummed I didn't stick with this one, and I certainly plan to come back to it someday. The Switch port sounds like the perfect excuse, given that this is essentially a visual novel with some very light tactics-based combat thrown in. It would play perfectly on the Switch. 12 minutes. Man, this was, yeah, this is a weird one. If you know, you know, and if you don't, believe me, you don't want to know. This was exclusive to the Xbox and the PC, but now will be coming to PlayStation and Switch on December 7th. I don't recommend picking it up, but some people enjoyed it, so check it out, I guess, but just watch out for that ending. It is a doozy. Terminator Resistance was a sleeper hit fan favorite when it released back in 2019. The game sits at 47 on Metacritic, as critics clearly look down their nose at it, but it's sitting at 92% very positive on Steam, with nearly 7,000 reviews counted. That's kind of hard to argue with. Clearly, the developers were undeterred by the critics poo-pooing their work because they just announced some new story-based DLC titled Annihilation Line, and it'll be out very soon, December 10th to be exact. Finally, the Analog Pocket is about to start shipping real soon. If you haven't heard about this thing, it's basically the sexiest, most feature-complete handheld ever created. And I'm not joking. This thing has more features than the Nintendo Switch and the PS Vita combined, and it plays games from the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, the Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket, and the Atari Lynx. Plus, it has a dock so you can play it on your TV, and you can even make music with it because it has this inbuilt music creation tool thing. It's totally wild, and it'll probably be the future of the handheld homebrew scene for the next decade. It's hitting on December 13th, but good luck getting your hands on one. You're going to have to get in a very, very long line. So, what came out last week? Nothing. Next section. So, what's coming out this week? Well, first up is Beyond a Steel Sky, the latest from Revolution Software. This was released on PC to very strong reviews back in 2020, and today will arrive on all consoles, including the Nintendo Switch. Evil Genius 2 World Domination is similar in that it too was earlier available on PC, and it too is arriving on consoles today, though sadly not on the Switch. Good news though, it is hitting Game Pass for cloud, console, and PC. Century Age of Ashes releases on December 2nd after a prolonged period in open beta. This is a dogfighting game, except the term was never about dogs fighting, it was about planes fighting. And now it's about dragons fighting. I haven't played this yet, but I've heard good things, and I mean, this footage looks pretty cool, right? And by the way, it's free to play, so you can try it for yourself. It's only available on PC for now, but hopefully we'll see a console release sometime next year. Solar Ash. Boy, I have been waiting a long time for this one. Delayed multiple times, including a cheeky 1-month delay just recently. Solar Ash is finally hitting PlayStation and PC on the 2nd. I will say I'm a little worried about this one, owing to the fact that it's had so many delays, and the game is out in a few days, and I don't think anyone's played it yet. I haven't seen any hands-on previews, and we haven't even seen any extended gameplay footage. I have a lot of faith in Annapurna Interactive since they rarely miss, but yeah, I'm definitely wondering what the deal is here. I guess we'll find out in a few days' time. There's a cricket game hitting all platforms but the Switch on the 2nd. I know I'm Australian and I'm meant to care about cricket, but if someone offered me the choice of replaying all of Assassin's Creed Valhalla or watching 1 hour of cricket, I'll probably choose Valhalla. I think that tells you everything you need to know about my relationship with Australia's version of Stickball. Warhammer 40k Battle Sector is one of the rare Warhammer 40k games that's just good. No caveats or disclaimers needed, just a good game with a Warhammer 40k license attached to it. Rare as hen's teeth. This one released on PC a while back and people loved it. It's now hitting Xbox and PlayStation on the 2nd. Chorus. Now, this one looks cool. We saw this one revealed back during Gamescom, and we haven't heard too much since then, though there have been some previews around it, and it's looking solid. It's an arcade space flyer that seems to lean heavily into its story, which is kind of rare for games like this. The vibe of it just seems really interesting. I'm down for it. It arrives on all platforms, bar the Switch, on the 3rd. And finally, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker is here. The 4th expansion to the best MMORPG on the market today. That's right, Austin, I said it. Guild Wars 2 can take a seat today because this is Derplander's time. And whichever star or moon this concluding chapter takes him to, this is going to be a fucking awesome ride. This also marks a dark period for me, where every single time I put up a video or a tweet or I go to the supermarket, people will be like, "Hey man, any plans to review Endwalker?" The answer to that question, sadly, is no, at least not anytime soon. Reviewing Final Fantasy XIV isn't a 1-week process, it's a 6-month process. So I'm going to play the game, and I'm going to enjoy it, and maybe one day, when you least suspect it, a wild Final Fantasy XIV review will suddenly appear. Until that time, please don't ask me if I'm reviewing Final Fantasy XIV. Put this on your radar. There was one other game releasing this week that I didn't mention in the last block, and it's this one. Fight in Tight Spaces from developer Ground Shatter. This is a roguelike deck builder a la Slay the Spire, combined with the suited fisticuffs of John Wick, and while it looks simple, it also looks awesome. Cards will be redealt every turn, and they'll give you access to a range of moves like spin kicks and rising knees and grapples, and the grid-based layout allows you to select precise directions for those attacks or dodge incoming gunfire. Incidentally, there was a John Wick game some time back that was quite similar to this, but it was more of a straight-up tactics game. The fact that this is a randomized roguelike with a super hot aesthetic and plenty of blood splatter, it's just a really nice combo. There is a prologue for this which is available for free right now, and if you like what you see, you can pick it up today on Xbox and PC. I'll leave a link to the Steam page below. Sort of free stuff time, and it is a hell of a week. Last great week of the year, no doubt, as we feast our eyes on the December lineup waiting for us. I expect a bit of a drought come January, but that's okay. We'll all still be playing Final Fantasy XIV by that point anyway. Kicking us off is Tim Sweeney's beloved and highly profitable storefront, the Epic Games Store. Right now, you can get your hands on $15 worth of gems for some retro games. Doesn't sound any better saying it this week than it did last week. You can also get The Hunter, Call of the Wild, but on December 3rd, you can get 2 new games. The first is called While True Learn, parentheses, which is a weird-ass name, but it's a puzzle game about programming and machine learning, so it kind of fits. The other game you'll get your mitts on is Dead by Daylight, the asymmetric PvP horror game that many have tried to copy, but none have done quite so well. This released back in 2016 and has since then retained a chunky and engaged player base, now about to get even chunkier because all of us moochers will be rolling in there with our free copies. It's Battle of the Billionaires this week, and not to be outdone by Tim Sweeney, Jeff Bezos is coming in huge with a Twitch Prime offering so good, you're going to want to thank the next Amazon delivery driver who shows up at your door. Next month, if you have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, since they are the same thing by the way, you will get Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, the excellent survival real-time strategy hybrid Frostpunk, the short but sweet Journey to the Savage Planet, Football Manager 2021, Tales from Monkey Island Complete Pack, and a smattering of other smaller titles. That is one hell of a haul, and all of that is included in your $5 a month subscription, and all of those games, you get to keep them forever. You win this round, Jeff. Tim, don't let him get away with this. Next month, you should give us free Halo cosmetics. In Halo, by the way, not in Fortnite. Fuck that. Xbots, it's a good thing you guys have Game Pass to point to because this Games with Gold lineup is getting beaten like a rented mule across social media. You got The Escapist 2, Tropico 5, Penultimate Edition, Orcs Must Die, and Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. What the fuck is that? Tell you what, there's certainly one video that benefited from the removal of the dislike counter on YouTube, and it's the video where they announced the monthly Games with Gold lineup. Soon people will get there and be like, oh look, this video with 100,000 views has 100 likes. Must be a great lineup. Just the way YouTube advertisers wanted it. Don't think you're getting off the hook this week, Sony ponies. You're up next. This month, as part of the leaked PS Plus lineup, still not confirmed by the way, but pretty solid, you'll get Lego DC Villains. Okay, never a bad word to be said about a Lego game. You get Mortal Shell, which is a very competent Souls-like that has had plenty of developer updates and new content added to it, so that's not bad. I saved the best for last though. Godfall is your PS4 and PS5 game of the month. When I reviewed Godfall last year, I did not think it was a very good video game, and in my conclusion, I said this. So that's my final score. Will go free to play or get deleted out of 10. Lo and behold, here it is now, basically free as part of PS Plus. All those suckers who paid $180 for this game at launch, every one of them deserves a refund now. Is it going to happen? No, it's not. Should you play this game now that it's basically free? No, you shouldn't. But are you going to listen? No, you're not. You're going to get sucked in by the shiny graphics and the cool looking god frames, and you think, it can't be that bad, right? And then you'll play it for yourself and you'll realize. And where will that lead you? Right back to me. Ladies and gentlemen, our feel-good story for the week comes courtesy of Ubisoft, or more specifically, not from Ubisoft. This week, a tweet was doing the rounds from someone trying, in vain, to play Splinter Cell Blacklist online. After weeks of trying to get a response from Ubisoft customer service, he finally got one in the form of a forum post. Quote, "Rest assured, we are aware of the issue. However, given the age of the game in question and the relatively inactive player base, the game team has decided to not devote any further resources into rectifying this issue. Any support tickets submitted regarding this issue in the future will be met with a 7-day ban. Further offenses will be met with a permanent ban." End quote. Now, when I saw this, I was like, this can't be real. No way. But this post was stickied and locked by a mod on the forums, which does give the post a lot of legitimacy, even though forum mods are often not Ubisoft employees. So, what happened? The story gets picked up far and wide, with major publications including Kotaku reporting it as fact. There was only one problem. It was all complete bullshit. Ubisoft would respond to inquiries by saying that someone on the forums had impersonated a Ubisoft employee, and so their customer service was not in fact threatening to ban people for raising customer support tickets. Furthermore, the imposter was banned and Ubisoft apologized for any inconvenience. There's a lot of people dunking on news outlets for covering this story, but let me tell you, as someone that has dealt with Ubisoft customer support, I would not have been at all surprised if this were 100% true. It is legendarily bad customer support, so I feel like we ought to cut Kotaku some slack on this one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the 5th last This Week in Video Games for the year, which means that it is your 5th last chance of the year to hit the like button on this video. That is a rare opportunity. Don't let it slip through your fingers. Hit the like button right now because, you know, it might not be there next week. YouTube's doing all sorts of crazy shit right now. Who knows if we even get to like videos next week, okay? So seize the day, right? I appreciate you stopping by. If you want to come back, be sure to hit the subscribe button, ding the notification bell. Big week ahead. You don't want to miss it. And you know what else you don't want to miss? This week's sponsor, Skillshare. 2021 is fast closing, meaning that the bright possibilities of 2022 await you. Will you spend them whiling away your time on Destiny 2, grinding out catalysts in the thrallway? I know I will be. But in addition to that, I'm also going to try and better myself. I'm going to try to sharpen my skills as a writer, touch up my editing skills for the inevitable day when Austin ups and leaves me because he wants to work as a full-time lumberjack in New World. And I'm going to try and find some better work-life balance because YouTube is a pretty all-consuming gig and I am really not good at managing my time. This is where Skillshare comes in. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. On Skillshare, millions of members come together to find inspiration and take the next step in their creative journey. So here's the thing about Skillshare, right? You can absolutely just go online and start watching YouTube videos about any of these subjects, but you have to wade through so much stuff to find the right content, the right teachers, and if you do manage to find it, you're still doing all of this learning on your own. There's no support, no community. That's where Skillshare is different. Skillshare's courses are put together by experts in their field, like this guy, who's an award-winning photographer and videographer and a successful YouTube creator. He's distilled a decade's worth of knowledge into a brief, entry-level course that will teach you how to take professional-looking photos using only an iPhone. There's a complete lesson plan, a discussion board, and a space for other students of the course to post and discuss their work. So they're not just doing this on their own, they're connecting with other people who share the same interest or passion. That's what Skillshare ultimately is. It's a place to not only learn, but to connect with experts and other people who also want to learn. If you're serious about gaining a new skill, either as a hobby or for your profession, or simply because it interests you, I really recommend clicking on the link in the description below. And as an added bonus, the first 1,000 people who click the link will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. Thanks Skillshare for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.